Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the Power of 8 at 8. Welcome to my guest and co-host, Eileen. How's it going, Eileen?
It's going great. Hi, everybody.
So yeah, we were just discussing ESETI and discussing all sorts of stuff before going live here, and so I got all that on my mind. Be sure you guys join in on the forum on the website because it's a great way of checking in with other people that's traveling, and maybe you guys can share a ride or whatever. But it's a great place. People are already on there posting their stories and everything. I think it's a great place, especially for the lurkers that might not be comfortable coming out, calling in or something yet. You know what I mean? And I totally get it.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe they feel more comfortable typing it out in the forum and getting a little feedback, dipping their toe in the water, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I've been traveling, so I'll go on the forum tomorrow or tonight. Maybe it depends how I feel after the meditation. I might want to just chill and rest, but I definitely want to see if people enjoy sharing their context stories for ESETI by typing it into the forum instead of like coming on a live show and chatting about it, because that's a little intimidating. Yeah,
that's a big step. It's good to go from not talking about it at all, and if you do, people think you're crazy, to just going right out and on the live airwaves. So yeah, it's a definitely nice middle step. So
it is, isn't it?
Put it out
there
there.
It's a safe place.
Yeah.
Because it's not for the public. You have to register.
Right. Exactly.
So it is for the public, but you have to register, so they at least have an email address.
Exactly. Yeah, and we recognize the names. People are using similar YouTube name as their YouTube name, so it makes it easier. And just a little tip for you guys who post. You can click on your little outline of a man there and upload your own avatar if you want. Once you post, that option's there to be able to do that. So that's pretty nice.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I will definitely go on and check it out. I've been a little bit, what did you say it was? I was like unreachable since Thursday.
Oh, yeah, off the grid.
Without Wi-Fi. I've been off the grid. Yeah.
See, and I was from Wednesday to Friday. So
really?
So I saw that you'd gone on with Michelle's opinions, but I haven't got to catch it yet or whatever.
Oh, thank you, Michelle, so much for your lovely comments last night. It took 3 hours to drive home, and I'm like, the love stream's up, from last night, obviously.
Yeah.
So I drove home to it, and then thank you so much, Michelle, for your lovely comments, and I'm just so glad that you came on and shared all that with us, and really opened up. It really meant a lot to me. And then Jose at the end is like, Eileen's not getting back to me. And I'm like, I called her as soon as I got home on Hangouts. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. My phone, I got a new phone again. You know how Samsung is like Samsung forever? And I said, no. I said, I like my little Samsung from 2 years ago. So they kept sending me these deals until I couldn't say no anymore. And it was the new Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus with like all those cameras and all that fancy stuff, right?
Yeah.
$15 a month on Sprint. And I'm like, I cannot say no to that. But then, of course, none of my apps are working. I have to like delete them all and reload them all. And I'm back into the learning a new phone thing, which I hate doing,
Yeah.
But
I just went through that at the beginning of the year with the S9.
Yeah. So. And see, now they're going to come after you to get the S10 Plus. They will not leave you alone.
Well, they hadn't had me since the S5, so I do wait quite a few years.
Oh my God, I was the S4. I was the S4 to the S8, and now they've pulled me in. They sucked me in with the S10 Plus because I kept saying no, right? I don't like changing phones. Yeah. So we'll see. But I do all my YouTube work on my phone because it's easier for me to handle than doing it on a laptop, right? And less complicated. And the storage capacity is 250 gigabytes, more than my laptop. Isn't that crazy? It's smaller too. It's smaller than the Note 4 or Note 8. 250 gigabytes in this little tiny thing.
Wow.
I know. I think I have 118 gigabytes in my laptop.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
So, how big will this go? Are they going to put a terabyte in there someday? You know?
Definitely. Think about it. You're like a quarter of the way there.
I'm a quarter of the way there, and we need it with our YouTube videos because they take up so much space. And I
Yeah.
really do low production, really low production.
So I think mine's only 64 gigs or something. So they really upped their game on this.
250. I
Seems
know.
like my S5 was, I think it was an option. I think you could either get the 32 gigs or the 64, and I went
Oh,
with
I
the
think I had the
64.
32. I think I
Yeah.
had the 32 on the.
So it's kind of like, man, after four generations, they haven't gone up, and then all of a sudden, I guess they got bad reviews about that, and they just went all out with the S10 Plus. I
Well,
guess
the
that's
really
what the
weird thing
Plus
is,
is
I
about.
was I was paying $40 a month on my rental on Sprint for my 8, and they only asked for $15 a month on the S10 Plus. But then I got the larger gigabytes, so I'm $25 a month. But I'm going to pay $25 a month instead of 40, and for 2 years I paid 40. So not only is it bigger and better cameras, but it's cheap. I'm like, why are they forcing this on us? Why are they making people who do not want a new phone get a new phone? And now I'm thinking, do alphabet agencies, right? This phone is going to do something.
Absolutely, yeah. What is let's see. Yeah, dump the smartphones. Yeah, I can see why people.
I
I'm
know.
not. The 5G thing. Yeah, there's so much to worry about, but I don't really worry about any of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. But in California, there was a county that won, and they are not going to have 5G in their county. And the way they won was you have to go to your local government and sue them in a court, which, like, who has time and money to do that, right? So some association did it and say, we want to see proof that 5G is safe. And they could
Mm.
not produce that, so they had to halt putting it up. Isn't that interesting? So I think that information came out of Australia or New Zealand. That's how Australia or New Zealand are stopping it. Is they're going and they're suing them for safety studies, and there's none. There are no safety studies. So, and I'm not the fear bandwagon either. But women in Asia are wearing what are they wearing? Iron aprons. Is it iron? What is it that
Lead.
lead? They're wearing lead aprons if they're pregnant. So, of course, that could just all be overkill. That could all be for the fear mongering, right?
Yeah,
You
totally.
never know what to believe anymore. You never know what's real and what's not real because there's so much nonsense out there.
I just sit back and enjoy the show anymore.
Just enjoy the show. And like Mike from My Skies 5D, he's like, expect the best.
Yeah.
You know,
Like Cynthia. How
like
good can it
Cynthia
get?
Sue Larson, how good
Yeah.
can it get? Expect the best, and then the best will come out of it.
Right. And I could see the people who come from it from the angle like, oh, that's sticking your head in the sand. But no, it's not. To be aware of something and then to take the higher, I don't know, perspective, I guess you can say,
Yeah.
of how everything's really working together for good in its strange ways, even what we
What if that
perceive as.
changes it? What if that's how you Mandela affect things? You acknowledge it. I guess sticking your head in the sand would be not acknowledging it, going,
Right.
I'm
Or say
so
that's not
scared.
happening.
I'm so
Yeah.
scared, I'm not going to look at it,
Right.
right? But
But
if
then the
you,
other end of that is to realize the sovereignty you have and the power you have over your reality as you perceive it. That's really the other end of that. And somewhere in the middle is sort of trying to fight against
somewhere in the
what.
middle is most of us in our community going, I don't want to be scared. Sometimes I get scared, but I'm not going to be scared. And sometimes I feel scared, but I'm not going to let it happen. It's that middle between the two.
Or, feeling like you got to fight the system when, maybe there's no way to at times.
Well,
So,
what I figure is I've been fighting the system most of my adult life, and it doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't get me anywhere, and it doesn't get the system anywhere. So there's got to be a way to heal the system and change it without fighting it.
and that's awareness, I believe.
I
You
hope
know.
so, because fighting the system doesn't change the system.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, but let me ask you, can anybody hear a puppy scratching on a door, or is it just me?
I
Okay,
don't hear
I'm
it right
going to
now.
ignore And if we get to the meditation, I might have to disappear for a second and let the puppy out. But right now, it sounds like the young dog's in one of the bedrooms, dying to get out here because she can hear me chatting with you guys. She probably thinks you're all in the room with me, right? Oh, we got company. Scratch. But I'm glad you brought it up because I was having kind of a holiday with some friends with young people, and some of the 18-year-olds who just graduated high school, who occasionally watch our programs, not all the time, were saying, well, Eileen, do you think the universe is simulated, holographic, or multidimensional? And I'm like, it's really interesting that you put it to me that way, because we tend to think you have to choose, that the models are not compatible. And I said, I actually believe in a simulated universe, because a simulation is information, and information in light, right? And if everything is light and everything is waveform and the information is in the wave, that simulation could be from God, source energy. That simulation could be coming from our higher selves. We might be sitting somewhere very far away from here, programming and experiencing and enjoying ourselves here, right? It doesn't mean the computer simulated us just because it's the word simulation. Exactly. And then why couldn't you have a simulated holographic universe in multi-dimensions? Why can't you have it all?
Exactly. Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, wow, those all sound compatible to me, not really like an either or type choice.
Me too. I said I believe in all of them.
I believe they're just sort of different perspectives of the same thing,
And they can all be wrong. I mean, maybe our brains can only imagine things a certain way. So we can imagine a simulation in virtual reality, and we can imagine holographic and multiverse. And maybe the universe in reality is something that we cannot even imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I love the fact that 18-year-olds are asking that question.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, because that's certainly nothing I was asking at that age.
No, and I kind of think it's the ultimate question. I mean, if you're here on Earth, I guess the ultimate question would be, who am I? And then from there, why am I? Why am I here? And then from there, where am I going after here? Those are the three obvious ultimate questions, right?
Yeah.
What else is there besides what is the universe?
Yeah, where are we going? How did we get here? Those are kind of connected,
Yeah, we still don't understand birth. We do not know how a soul goes into a body.
Right. Or just all the discrepancies about the human race in general, where we this hybrid, where we evolved from monkeys. Did someone help and mix our genes with monkeys? And
a little of all of that seems true, don't you think? Do you think like a little bit of it all is actually the reality? Because we got the rhesus negative, right? Negative people don't have the rhesus monkey gene. I'm O positive. I got monkey blood in me. I got the rhesus monkey.
I have no idea what I am.
In me, yeah. So I got that, and then skin cancer. There's no reason why any animals on Earth should be getting skin cancer. If they've evolved here naturally over millions of years, as Carl Sagan used to say, he used to say it really funny, then obviously those who died from exposure to the sun would be long gone, right? Because the sun is a constant. It's not going away. It's always here. So anything that couldn't handle the sun should have been evolutionized out of existence. But that's not the case.
But then we also know that the sun has changed quite a bit since Carl Sagan was saying that. It's not quite the constant that...
No, it isn't, because the magnetosphere is almost gone. Our little magnetic shield is like, ooh, it's all busted up.
Yeah, with the UVCs reaching the Earth that weren't normally there,
I've even found that the fact that the magnetic shield used to be so much stronger, it could have given us a different color sun. If you're looking at it through a different magnetic shield,
Sure, yeah.
It could look different than if you're looking at it straight without any shield, right?
Yeah, because it's going to be affecting the light waves, and that's where you get your color by the waves and the speed and all of that.
So I like to think it's all tied together. I know a lot of you guys do. Schumann resonance rising is tied to the magnetic shield, right?
Yeah. More
Extra
blast, yeah.
UVs, extra radiation is tied to the magnetic shield. Sun heat, strength, heating up of the world, and color of the sun could all be tied to the magnetic shield. And that also gives a great reason of why they are, why we got stuff going up there. They might be working on this.
And that's a great point because, it's like the more you're aware of how things are connected, and the more now we realize that even other planetary bodies that,
They're all heating up.
excuse me, that
I'm
we
on a
don't
live
think
show. Are you bringing the puppy to the live show? Okay, now show everybody the puppy. Come on. Here she is. That's the palm poo. She was scratching to get out here.
Very nice.
She's my daughter just said she's famous now. Yes, she is. Her name is Mocha. Even though she should have been called Pumpkin Spice Latte because she's red.
But we actually debuted her on the show a long time ago.
We did. Shane just said we debuted her when she was like 8 weeks old. Yeah, you just weren't here. We did it when we did the Stanley photos, didn't we? Because
because the reflection looked like the dog or something in the elevator, right?
It looked like the puppy's eyes. Yeah, same shape, almond shaped.
Yeah, totally.
But only half the people could see the puppy. Anyway, in the elevator, like half the people couldn't see it, which is okay. I totally am okay with that.
What is up, Jose? We were talking about you. Are you just hopping in here?
We were talking about you, unless she was lurking and she knows.
Awesomeness.
Yeah.
So, did we actually get any, it's being that it's the summer solstice, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Longest day of light, maybe something about.
I forgot about that. It is.
Something to kind of go. I mean, it can still carry on after this, but the fact of bringing more light to the world or something,
Yeah, we should definitely do a meditation tonight of bringing more light to the world through our hearts and through us. Because we are cool. I think we consider ourselves the light workers. I don't think that term has totally disappeared yet, has it?
No, and it's more like job title than it is.
Is a job title.
Yeah.
A love bringer. We're the love bringers.
The love bringers.
We're the love bringers of the world. Because they are trying to mess around with Lightbringer. They're trying to make it new age and evil and saying it's tied to Lucifer, bringer of the light.
Right.
I'm like, darn, they're going to take away our light working term.
Yeah, that's funny how that everything has its bass-ackwards ways to use.
Bass-ackwards, yes. I'm like, well, I'm not following Lucifer, but I like the term light worker. But, I don't know. Maybe Lucifer was a good guy. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to judge. Because people are going, no, that's not Satan. That's not the devil. It's a different character. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. And some are saying that it evolved from the character Prometheus. So if you know your Greek mythology.
Which I don't.
Yeah, most people don't read Greek mythology. Prometheus brought a light to humankind. He brought them fire so that they could cook and smelt metal and build things. And he was punished by the gods for bringing knowledge to humanity. He was tied up to a chain somewhere. Oh, it's a terrible story. And like an eagle comes down and eats his liver every day, but he has to live forever that way. So typical Greek drama, I
hear some parallels in with the Book of Enoch with that too.
Yeah, which you know better than me. I've read the story once and it was so wild. I didn't retain half of it. So what's the parallels? Because that's Prometheus, who's supposed to be
Well, it wasn't Prometheus.
The bringer of knowledge. So Lucifer is the bringer of knowledge. He's the snake going up the tree, going, eat the knowledge.
Right. It seems like there was one that showed them how to use, make tools and weapons, and then there was one that taught them how to do, pharmaca or drugs, what we would typically think of, potions and drugs and medicine, and then there was another one. So there was, different angels that brought different knowledge or something like that. Yeah, it's been a while since I read it too. And I might be mixing up with the Book of Jubilees or something.
See, that's
if I'm totally screwing it up,
it all goes together into one big mush in your brain. Yeah. But
totally.
This is humans figuring things out. So if humans 2,000 years ago had to see an angel or a Greek figure, which is, I think he must have been a god or one of those godlings, like half god, half human. If they want to attribute that to a character in a story, I'm okay with that because humans are very creative. We
Mm-hmm.
really love making up stories, but that doesn't mean that it could mean that we received the information in a parable, but it doesn't mean it's 100% true, does it?
No, it means it could have been laid out in a way that makes sense to you. You know.
Exactly. Like Aesop's fables, all those little tiny stories of morality tales.
Yeah. And
You
the
know,
way
like,
Jesus spoke really fit the time that they were in. So when they were talking about plowshares and just things of the day, I mean, it made a lot more sense probably to the farmers of that era
oh
than it
yeah.
does to us. That because we don't even understand the analogy or the comparison really, unless it's really
But
explained to
then
us.
why did humans go, yeah, let's write a new religion 2,000 years ago? Woohoo! Look at all these prophets. And now we're like, no, you may not write a new religion. The book must stand forever. That part I don't get. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but it's like,
Probably.
who said
It's
we
hard
could
not to.
write a religion 2,000 years ago and that was a good idea? And 2,000 years later, we can't do that anymore. It's like, when was the cutoff point, right?
I think one of yeah, I think one of it. I think one of the problems is it's like our idea of these humans of them being different than us, like infallible in some way, like these infallible humans of ancient days that which clearly they were arguing, and Jesus had to get on to them several times,
Yeah,
like
I think they're fallible because Jesus came and said, no, you're all doing it wrong.
right. Exactly, and you'll see that even more in some of the other gospels that aren't in the Bible, where they were getting jealous about things and stuff like that.
I
So
like the rebels. I guess that's just me. I love the rebels who come and say, I'm going to write a new religion. I think that's super cool. And we haven't had a rebel do that for 2,000 years. So I think
right.
we're due.
Well, it's like I realized I was like, man, Jesus came to like tear down the religions, right?
Yeah.
And then you like see him in his day and calling them hypocrites and hanging out with the people that were, on their way. They were waiting at hell's gates, right? Because they
Yep.
were
And
the
kicking over the
undesirable.
moneylenders' tables. And
Right,
now we're all under the yoke of the moneylenders. So it didn't really work.
right. And just that knowledge is still there, just waiting for. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I should consider this in a different way than I've been told to consider it. And there's a wealth of information there if you just kind of
Wealth of information. I love the
switch your
wisdom.
perspective. Yeah.
I really admire and appreciate the Bible in its time. I
Yeah.
see the wisdom in it and I'd appreciate it, but I see it in its time because there's other things in there that just don't fit anymore, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that worked for them then because this is where they lived and this is how they lived,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. There's a lot of that with Paul's books too. That I've seen a lot of denominations get started from his different writings to the different churches, but he was sort of addressing issues that were going on in those churches at those specific times,
Interesting.
and whether it was women need to keep their head covered and not speak out. I guess maybe they were having an issue with that in that city, but you'll see a lot of these old timey church where the women keep their head covered and are
We're
seen
still
as
having
second.
that issue. Maybe not in our backyard, but our BFF, Saudi Arabia, just allowed women to drive. So now women can actually operate a vehicle. So, I mean, to think that that just happened
Yeah,
in our
progress
time.
is being made, but it is hard to imagine how some, especially women, are treated in other countries
Well, this
still
is
to this day.
historically where I have difficulty with the Bible, in that that's where it comes from. It
Right.
comes from a region of the world that just gave women the right to drive a car. So
Hmm.
that just says a lot. That just says a lot because it comes from a very harsh environment where survival was very difficult there 2,000 years ago. It was all warring tribes, Bedouin tribes, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And they needed codices and practices that served them in a very harsh environment where women had no rights. None. Children didn't either, though.
Right, but you can see it in the writing still.
You
The
can still see it.
prejudice
Well, you
there.
can
Yeah.
particularly see it in the Quran. I read the Quran. Most
Hmm.
Americans haven't read the Quran, but I was raised in the Middle East, so I read both the Bible from cover to cover at Loyola University and was tested on it. And I've lost most of my memory of it. I've let it go. And then I read the Quran afterwards. And the Quran has all the biblical stories in it. I don't
Yeah, I
think
know.
most people
I
realize
tripped
that.
up. No, I don't think people do. I was really surprised. I'm like, wait, this is
It's
the
all about
same
Moses and
story.
Jesus.
I was tripping because it had like the whole story of Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael instead of Abraham,
Yes.
Isaac, and Jacob. So, or Abraham, Ishmael. I guess, yeah, yeah.
Ishmael's
Abraham and
definitely in
Ishmael.
the Quran.
Right. And he was the firstborn. I'm like, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute. He was the firstborn, right? But in the Bible, it's like he was the firstborn, but it didn't count because it was the maidservant. So, you know what I'm
Good
saying? So,
point. Good point. So the Quran is a correction on the Bible, but it's not a correction on the Old Testament. The New Testament is a correction on the Old Testament. That's all Jesus. And the
mm,
Quran is a correction on the Old Testament and the New Testament. So if
mm,
you're going to put the Old Testament book, which is the Hebrew book, the Torah, the Talmud, together with the Christian book, which is its correction, you're leaving out the third book of the Bible, which is the Quran. You know what I mean? If you're
right,
going to put two separate religions together, because the Old Testament and the New Testament are two different religions, basically,
right.
then you might as well include this third. So
Or
you would
just
have
go all the way back to Abraham and combine them all. Say, hey, you're all Abraham's seed. Let's get along, right?
all Abrahamic religions. That's right. Put them all under one cover. Can you imagine that? And that's where they should be. Oh God, I got to be careful. You know, you can get in trouble for saying that stuff. But really, they come from the same region. They're written by the same genetic people,
Right.
and they're at the same time, roughly. Give 500 years,
Hmm.
right?
Well,
So
I
they
don't think the
share
Quran
more
came
than
around
they.
until I don't know, seven. Was it 7 AD? Seven
I thought it was 500 AD. Was
or 700?
Muhammad.
Seventh century is what I meant. But yeah, when
I'm thinking
Muhammad
sixth
met with,
century. I'll bet it's in the sixth. I bet it's right between us. I'll bet you if you look it up now, it'll be like, go ahead. It'll be like the sixth century, 600.
that's
Yeah,
interesting.
Muhammad was like 500 to 700 years after Jesus.
Yeah. Okay.
And he includes Jesus in the story because Muhammad went into a cave like Jesus did,
Hmm.
and he received the word not from God, he received it from Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel.
609 CE.
See, I told you it's right in between us. I'm going 500, you're going 700, and it's 600 clearly.
Right. Yeah. 609,
So he got his
623,
information,
32.
he channeled from Archangel Gabriel, the entire Quran.
Right. And
Jesus went
that's.
and channeled from God, right? He wasn't channeling from angels.
Hmm.
Mary saw Gabriel. Gabriel told Mary that she was going to have Jesus.
Gabriel's also the one that went to talk to Daniel and got held up for like 3 weeks fighting. I don't know
And
something.
Sarah, and told Sarah and was it Abraham that they were going to have a child? And they were like in their 70s. Were they the old guys who had the baby?
Wait a minute.
Who had
So
David?
that's interesting because I'm tying all this together, and that would be quite the irony of it is if Abraham and Sarah had Ishmael first
Mm-hmm.
because they actually used it wasn't Sarah, it was her maidservant or whatever, right? And then
Surrogate mother in
right,
the
and then
year
they came back and said no,
zero.
it needs to be from the line of Sarah. Don't give up. You're gonna have a child, and because she was way beyond her years, right? And then she gives it.
60s. I know she was at least in her 60s or 70s. She was
So
past menopause.
so if that's Gabriel that came and talked to
Hmm.
her, and then that was Gabriel that went and started the Islamic religion.
According to Muhammad, yes. Yes.
But what I'm saying is, he's like he basically said that the line of Ishmael wasn't. I don't
Yes.
know. I guess it depends on which one you read because
I
if
know.
you
I'm
read it from
saying
the
read them all together. Put them all together as three books, as one book.
right,
Seriously. And maybe
yeah,
we'll
I
have
guess
unity when we do.
I never got to the Newer Testament, I guess, area of because most of what I remember from when I read the Quran was Old Testament parallels. I don't remember anything, but I
Oh, you
remember
have
them
to read
saying
the
that
whole
Jesus,
book. You know, it's not very long. It might be
right?
600 pages, 500 pages. Just read the book from start to finish.
But Jesus is in the
Jesus
latter
is in
part of
it.
it
Yeah.
because people
He's a big
say,
part of it.
right, he's spoken of as a great teacher, not as
Muhammad says that he was one of the greatest prophets who ever lived,
greatest
and that he
prophet.
was right to criticize the old religion. You know, very pro Jesus in the
Mm,
book, very anti original Old Testament.
mm,
But the one problem that a lot of people who are Christians And look, the Jews follow the first book, the Christians follow the second book, and the Muslims follow the third book. And they all were birthed in the Middle East, all of these books at the same time, roughly, give or take 600 years, right?
The story, yeah.
They belong together. They really do. And for us to understand, because we don't come from that culture, we follow its religion by adopting Christianity, but we don't have the cultural background in our DNA to really understand it. If we want to understand ourselves and our motivations and our archetypes, we have to go back to the Norse myths, the Celtic myths, African myths, possibly Roman ones and Greek ones. Because those religions, they're religions. They're not just myths, they're religions, and they predate the Middle Eastern religions that we've all adopted for some reason and carried around the world, except for, of course, Hinduism and Buddhism, which is staying quite strong in the East. They haven't thrown out their religions and adopted Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Well, isn't when you look deep enough into most of these different myths around the world, aren't they really pointing to the same characters? Like
Yeah.
Yahweh is Zeus, and Zeus is
Yes. Yes.
you know, because you're looking at, I guess, Greek mythology. You're looking at
And some are
Norse,
calling Prometheus Lucifer, and some are calling Prometheus the Christ figure, the
and then
savior of man,
right,
which has
and then
been mixed up.
Poseidon is Satan, or
Or
there's
Neptune.
right,
Poseidon is Neptune. They're all so related.
yeah.
But then again, if you go back further and really make a study of religion, as far back as the written record, you get to the Sumerian tablets. And
Hmm.
those are completely different with the Anunnaki, Enlil, Enki, unless you go to the Mesopotamian myths, and they're like the Sumerian ones, and you've got Ishtar and Gilgamesh. And then suddenly you start seeing where the Old Testament came from. The Gilgamesh story, he's not Noah, but he tells the story of Noah. But he tells the story 2500 BC. So now you're seeing in the Old Testament, the Mesopotamian myths, there were a religion. And then if you go further, you see the Sumerian myths.
Hmm.
So we can date our stories back at least, well, originally they dated them back 6,000 years, but there's been either a Mandela effect or the authorities have changed it to 4,000 years ago.
Oh, it's four
You know how
thousand
they,
now.
yeah, they do things like they throw Pluto out and they go, Pluto's not a planet anymore. Well, it used to be the Sumerian tablets, the oldest written record, Sanskrit and Sumerian cuneiform, were 6,000 years old. And now they've changed that to 4,000 years old. So we've somehow lost 2,000 years of our writing. And I don't know when they made that change.
But then again, we have the other parallel with the Anunnaki is I guess, was it the sons or the brothers of the sons of Anu, Enlil and Enki, are portrayed as that's what we think of as Jehovah and Lucifer, right? Or no?
Yes, because they share characteristics and personality. But
Right.
the
But Enki
etymology
was
of their
also
names,
supposed to be Jesus too, right?
that's where it's getting kind of confusing for me because I'm not well versed in Sumerian myths. I'm reading them now.
Right.
So I just read the Book of Gilgamesh to understand where Noah came from.
Well, I just find it interesting because I honestly don't know, but I look at these stories and I'm sort of blown away when you can take a step back and you can just consider different ideas. And one of those is the Garden of Eden, is this huge story we've been told. We all know the religious way of looking at it, but when you
Sure.
really look at it as an outsider and you don't go into it with any you're just sort of looking at the story as it is, you see where the character we think of as God told them, don't eat of the fruit, or in that day you'll surely die. This other being that is portrayed as the bad guy says, no, eat the fruit. Your eyes will be open. You'll be enlightened, right? So they
And
eat
what
the
is the fruit?
fruit.
It's from the tree of knowledge. It's from the tree of life.
Right, but if you look at what they both said, the person portrayed as God in this story told them they would die in that day. Now, I know religion says, well, they died, their soul died, and they became mortal, and I know they've attached all that to it, but you wouldn't
They
attach that to it if you sort of just read the story. you'd say, well, clearly this guy lied, right? And then this guy
Because
told him
they
the
didn't
truth.
die.
Why
But
does it seem
supposedly
backwards?
your innocence died. It was like if you're dumb in the Garden of Eden and
Right?
you have no knowledge of anything, you're innocent like an animal. And
Right.
then you eat of the tree of knowledge and you take on knowledge and you're no longer innocent. Your innocence has died and now you're culpable for every action you make in the Garden of Eden. It's kind of like seen as the fall of man. You know how they talk about the fall of angels?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fall of humankind was eating the knowledge. And of course, Eve is the one who gave it to Adam. So the woman is tempting the man to be knowledgeable as God. That's the
And now
story.
she has to suffer through the pain of childbirth as
Yes.
a
And
result.
now you both have to suffer and die. And before that, you were immortal. You live forever. Or what they mean, the parable is before the parable is before that, your innocence was intact. You were as innocent as a lamb, as a bunny rabbit, because they don't know what they're doing. A lion doesn't calculate to kill for pleasure. A lion has to eat and goes out and eats, so it eats innocently. But humans, everything they do, they know what they're doing. So the innocence is gone. That's the only way I can figure out the parable, and it goes beyond Abrahamic religions. It goes into Mesopotamia myths that you just mentioned. It
Right.
goes into Sumerian myth, and they're all tied from the Middle East. But it's not just the Middle East, it's Euro Indochina. No, not Indochina, it's Eurasia, they call it. It's where southern Europe meets the Middle East. And Mesopotamia was not only in the Middle East, but it was the like the Phoenicians. It was that whole region. It was the Mediterranean,
Mm-hmm.
which is North Africa and Southern Europe, right?
Yeah,
And
because
that
that place has always been booming.
yeah, that
That's
is a
where
whole civilization.
a
Yeah,
lot of the sinking cities are right
loads of
there.
sunken cities there,
Yeah, like,
loads,
yeah, I
and
think
they
in the hundreds actually.
and they wrote stories, and
Mm-hmm.
they had gold, they mined metal. That was that's the history that's so rich is that whole Mesopotamian area,
Well,
the
when I think of
Phoenicians.
that story, though, back to the brothers and Lil and Inky, it seems like we've seen this interaction that sometimes may get mistaken as being the same individual. But if they're brothers, then you can see how one might come and then the other one come, and all they know is it's these godly-looking characters that showed up in their ship or however they showed up. I'm sure it was fantastic. Whatever it was looked like a
Yeah,
god.
yeah.
Even if it was technology, they didn't understand it, right? So there was the one plague that got put on the Israelites at some point, and then returned and took the plague off of them by hanging the snake up on the pole and saying, "Whoever is plagued, come look at the snake on the pole, and you'll be healed." Right. So one of the ideas that I was kind of throwing around is, if we're looking at these two brothers and maybe they got mistaken, maybe once again Inky stepped in and helped after Enlil had put a curse on the people. Inky shows up, and then we have the character that is described as being possibly Inky in the New Testament, coming as human, right, in human flesh, as being Jesus, and he says, just as Moses lifted up the snake in the
Mm-hmm.
wilderness, so I, the Son of Man, must also be lifted up like a snake. So I don't know. I just saw these
Those
parallels
stories
between
are
all of
so
this.
similar because
Yeah, that
one
the
hated humanity for being greedy and debaucherous, and
right.
one loved humanity. Which one loved humanity? Which one had the Jesus?
Supposedly Inky or the serpent are the one we've been told, and and that's why I love the work of Matthew Lacroix, because he actually breaks down all of the countries and all of the empires that have
I've got
arisen.
to read that. I've got to read him.
Yeah, so he breaks it down by the serpent and the eagle, and you can see any of the countries that use the eagle, they were the conquering faction that would go and sort of try to like burn down the libraries of the faction that used the snake. So the snake represented the wisdom and the
Oh,
knowledge.
right. The snake also, St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland. That was driving the Celts underground. The
Right,
Celts were the worshippers of the snake. The snake is as in wisdom.
right. So
Snake
he
has
actually shows
other
like the whole history of those, whether it's Rome using an eagle or
Germany. United
Mexico
States,
has the
Russia.
snake and the eagle's mouth actually on their flag. So there's been this whole battle between these two brothers, and you can tell which brother's helping that country by the logo that they use in their, insignia or whatever. It's a real interesting
I've
read. I
got to
think
read
it.
that because I've been reading about snake wisdom and how ancient it is, and how the snake was always associated with gods and wisdom and knowledge and power. And it had
Hmm.
something to do with the snake swallowing its tail and creating eternity, right?
Hmm.
The circle that cannot be broken, has no beginning, has no end. And also the snake shedding its skin. In order to grow, the snake has to completely shed its skin and move out of it, creating a new skin. And somehow they saw that as leaving the old life behind as you evolve, like spiritually evolving and not being the same you anymore. The old
Right.
you left behind. That's like the dead snake skin. And I thought, wow, that's a beautiful parable. Parable, again, I can't say that word. It's just a beautiful story
Hmm.
of how we change. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 10 or 15 years ago.
And we
And
quite literally do have new cells that
every seven
What?
years, we
Yeah.
change ourselves in the body. So there was a lot of wisdom in that story. And
Yeah.
this is the part that I'm not comfortable with. If you study Thoth, that some people call Thoth or Thoth,
Right.
the ancient Egyptian god that gave humanity writing
Which is also
4,000,
inky, right?
yes, yes, supposedly
Yeah.
4,000 years ago, right? There was a staff with two snakes intertwining, one going to the left and one going to the right. Do you remember that? And that became the Caduceus,
The caduceus. The
Caduceus,
right,
which
which is sort
represented
of symbolic.
medicine,
Right,
right?
it's sort of symbolic of the DNA strands or whatever, and like it's been around since before we knew what the heck DNA strands were, right? So,
Exactly.
and it goes back to that story I just told you about, you know,
And
the
you know how they
the
say about the Kundalini rising up the spine? But they also
exactly.
say it's two snakes because one is male and one is female, and it intertwines up. And then there's like eagle's wings at the top,
Right.
combining the west of the eagle's wing with the eastern thought of the snake. Well, the AMA, American Medical Association, which always has that medical symbol on everything from drugs to, the logos everywhere on ambulances,
Mm-hmm.
hospitals, they've removed one snake, and I'm wondering why. And they've done it recently. So if you look
You're
up
talking
that,
Mandela effect, or they just stopped doing the double?
you tell me, was it a
Because I've
Mandela
I've
effect?
always I remember seeing it one way and the other and liking the two snakes better and thinking it looked better. It's
That was
sort of that
normal.
way with the money sign, like are they saying that the money sign? Okay,
Does the money sign have one line
it's got
going
one
down now instead
line
of two?
and it used to have two almost always, but sometimes people would write it with one, but now it appears all of these just have one.
Just look up
So,
the caduceus and maybe throw one up on the screen if you have time, because we can do our meditation at 9. I don't know why the AMA has knocked off one snake, but it doesn't look right to me and it doesn't feel right. It's almost like changing it into male only and getting rid of the feminine aspect of life,
yeah, and this
balance.
sort of ties back in with what I felt with just the whole Mandela effect. To me, a lot of the changes were pointing to. Here, let me
Wait,
share my
from
screen
plural
with
to
you.
singular? Is that where we're going? Are we
Well,
dropping
just
all the
from
S's off of things?
well, we've got some of those, but just with the thinker moving from. Let me do this while I'm thinking. Okay, so there's the caduceus. So these all have two. But yeah, just the idea of the male side, the feminine side, and
Oh, no, okay, now look at those. Don't they look wonderful? You go, yes, that's my memory. Now look up the AMA. After, like, put that on one screen and then put up another screen that says AMA. This used to be the symbol, you guys, of the American Medical Association. It was recognized all over the world for like, I don't know how long, for an ancient
oh,
amount of
this
time.
one here.
Well, look at the one. That almost looks like United Nations and AMA put together.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
That's creepy looking.
Yeah, because it's got the flat Earth
This
map.
staff, which turned into a snake, right?
Yeah.
So look up American Medical Association. There it is. There, the purple one, AMA, American Medical Association, one snake on a staff. What the heck?
Yeah, it's like that on this one too.
What the heck is that, guys? Because it's always been two, medicine has always been two snakes going up a staff. The one in the middle is right.
Yeah. So it looks like they're
So
just going back to maybe a singular type design now or something. But it's not like a Mandela effect, maybe? I don't know.
I guess not. If they're saying that they changed it, then it's an actual change. But why? Why would the powers that be get rid of half of the energy? Because the duality of our universe or our world here and the duality of male and female energy intertwining to make a life. Hopefully for the foreseeable future, it's still done that way, that we create life with the egg and the sperm and
Right.
don't just do something to an egg or do something to a sperm to create life. And it's that duality of the two coming together.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the American Medical Association just throw half of that out the window
Right.
and throw the snake going up a staff and throw away the wings?
And that's like, oh, yeah, that's a huge one there, huh?
Yeah, why'd they get rid of the wings? And why is it one snake crawling up a staff? It looks kind of creepy. I don't like it. The other one doesn't look creepy to me.
Yeah, it's way more symmetrical and I don't know, it just seems to fit better.
Yeah, it just looks kind of like ancient and knowledgeable. And it was like Hermes, right? Hermes had wings. And, you know, I don't know. What do
Absolutely.
you think about that? Like a snake up a stick to represent the
I
medicine.
always thought it was, because I was raised where, the serpent in the garden was the enemy and snakes are evil and all of that. So I've always wondered why but now I know that whole story with, it's symbolic of what happened with, Moses putting the snake up on the stick and healing the people of the plague. So it makes sense with, using it for medicine because it was
It does appear
medicine.
to go completely Luciferian because Lucifer is the snake. So that would make perfect sense. As Lucifer the light bringer. Like Lucifer brought the knowledge instead of Thoth with the two snakes, you know?
Mm, the balance. I think it's all pointing back to, it's pointing us away from or to, depending on the sources of these changes. I think a lot of the Mandela effect ones are pointing to the fact that where we've moved away from, like with the thinker statue, it shows that he's moved completely to what his eyes can see, way to his left. So it's more of a reflection of our reality, where before he thought with his third eye, with his fist to his forehead, and that was a better way. So it's reflecting the reality better in this new pose. He's all twisted to one side. He's got this thing coming out the side of his head, you know?
Yeah, that I don't get. It almost looks like a helmet. But you know what? To me it speaks louder and louder to follow your own path, to get
Mm-hmm.
your relationship good with God. Right straight to you. Or if you want to get a relationship good with Jesus, do that. But to not follow necessarily the structured, authoritative practice because that keeps changing, but not in ways that takes into account the needs of everybody. And we
Yeah.
don't know why they change. They don't tell us why they suddenly dump an old ancient symbol for medicine and change it. We don't know why.
The main thing, though, is that we go directly to the source. We don't need a middleman
Yeah, straight to
for our
source.
spiritual, whatever, whether it's God or Jesus or, whatever,
Buddha,
you can go
Muhammad,
directly. Yeah.
exactly. Whatever. Yeah, I really think going direct to source is really, really important now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what our group does best. When I chat with people in our group on different shows and I go back and read the chat, we really kind of tend to stand in our own like authority. Stand
Mm-hmm.
in your own power, stand in your own authority, but we do it without cutting down everybody else around us. So you don't have to say my version is better than yours, but
Right.
it's having confidence in life. You're saying I'm here and I know God is here. Or there might be atheists that say okay, there is no God, but then I don't really feel like they would be in our community anyway because we all seem to be very um what's the word, connected to God in
Yeah.
this community.
And when you hear people's individual stories and you hear all the synchronicities and how they ended up where they're at, and they could have used a completely different route than what you've taken. but yet you can see all the similarities of how it seemed like they had this higher guidance the whole time, this benevolent agency looking out for them and helping them along the way. But yet they went a completely different route. It really helps you build trust in the fact that everyone gets what they need to help them along the way if they're open to it. And that's the kind of people we meet, or the people that's more open to developing
The people are more
themselves.
drawn here. Yeah. Don't you think?
Oh yeah.
And plus, we're starting to get comfortable with ourselves and get comfortable with life
Hmm.
so that we're not fearful and we're not always, what's the word? I can't even describe it. Sometimes I can't find words for what I'm actually thinking and feeling about the evolution of
Hmm.
humanity. I do feel like we are very much the new human.
Hmm.
We are the way that humanity is going, and it's going away from the cages, going away from the boxes, more freedom, more open.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to light the path. I guess that can be our theme for
Yeah.
lighting. We've
On
got
the
the
solstice. Was it solstice today or yesterday? Because
the
it's always the
22nd.
21st or the 22nd.
Right. I'm not sure if this was. I mean, I'm sure it's like winter, so we have 3 days of the 3 days of the the darkest days of the year. I'm sure we've got three similar days of brightness, or
I
length
was
of
just
day.
wondering if the solstice was, because it's always on the 21st or the 22nd of June.
It's the
It's always
22nd, but I'm not sure if it's the same amount of days, light or hours in the day for the next 3 days, or if it just ended on
probably,
today's date. I'm not sure how that works.
probably. Which is why when they say there'll be 3 days of darkness, I'm like, are they getting that from the Bible, or are they getting that from the solstices, which are usually 3 days
Right.
of the darkest in winter and the brightest in summer?
Yeah, because I think it starts 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and on the 25th the sun rises again on December 25th. So I guess it would be
Yeah,
just
that
the
whole
opposite.
December 25th thing is completely pagan,
Oh yeah, yeah,
completely
yeah.
pagan, all based on the winter solstice, which is
Right.
kind of cool.
Yeah, and I've watched Jordan Maxwell do all these similar or these similarities between like the Christian religion and the stars, like the three belts of Orion point to I think Venus, the Virgin, on that night, and then the sun rises at that point, and so there's all these, and it's used to argue that the stories are just created from the stars to help you know the story, but it could totally go the other way around too. You know what I mean? You
Exactly,
just
because
don't know.
again, it's like all create. It's just showing it's all related,
Yeah, totally. It's
and it's
amazing,
like
isn't it? 'Cause
it's all related. I would love to know, what did humans think prior to 4,000, 5,000 years ago? What was the religious myth of 6,000 years ago? And how is that related to our current religions?
and are we moving into this golden age?
Yeah, and where are we
That's
going to push it? Where does our next religion go? Obviously, it's going to have ties to all the past, but it'll be slightly different.
more
Or is
open-minded,
there a
more.
religion anymore? Because most of the people I know are making up their own. They're not even following a religion anymore. They're like, okay, I've got a direct line to God, so I'll appreciate all the religions that I hear, but I'll follow none. Hmm.
So I can see still having places of worship or places of gathering, but it not being so hierarchical. I guess at some level, like you don't have like just the pyramid of starting with the main teacher and then moving down from there. Just mainly people, places for people to congregate, maybe.
Well, what was it? Wherever two or more are gathered, there so am I. So,
Right.
and weren't there comments in the Bible about your churches wherever God is, and that could be under a tree,
Yeah.
right?
And somebody
Didn't
just
somebody
pointed
say
it
that?
out in Acts how they all just gathered at people's houses, and it was more
And
like,
caves. They gathered in a heck
yeah,
of a
yeah,
lot of caves, didn't they?
for
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
And that was the whole Mithras. The whole Mithras religion in Rome was based in caves, and Mithra was Jesus. And it's the way that they could interpret Jesus in the Arab world coming into a Roman world, and they had to practice secretly in caves. How cool is that?
Yeah, what is it, China Cry or whatever, where they're all singing praise and worship music silently and stuff? Did you see that movie?
Which one?
I think it's called China Cry. It's
No, I
about
haven't seen
the
that.
religious suppression and how they have to sneak to these little
Oh,
church
is it
meetings, and
romance? Yeah.
This is from China, like right now, like more of the
Oh, okay.
modern
No, I
era.
saw that
So,
in Russia as well under
oh, okay.
communism. They had to go into basements.
Might be like
To,
80s or 90s or something, but yeah, it's more current
oh,
era.
didn't Chairman Mao in the 1970s outlawed religion? You're not
Uh,
allowed to practice any religion.
hmm,
Hmm.
it's interesting. So I
They're
wonder if you
very
can just say,
interesting.
"Oh, I'm just strictly spiritual. It's no
No
religion involved."
spirituality. Let's strip humanity of all spirituality. No religion will be practiced. I mean,
It
what kind of an idiot says that, you know?
didn't work for Daniel. That's when he got thrown into the lions. Then remember, that's
They're
that whole
good.
story.
Ooh, you're not supposed to say that, are you? Oh, okay. Well, can you give me some ideas on what you'd like to be in the meditation for bringing? Because
In the light,
it's the summer solstice and bringing light to the world, light to the earth,
and lighting our path for
lighting our own
everyone.
path, and lighting the
Yeah,
path for everybody.
for everyone to light their own path. To help them know the best optimal way. Maybe just I don't know, because I know that's something anybody can use at any time, right?
We could
What?
all use more light, definitely. Although I'm feeling pretty bright. I feel pretty good since we've come together. I think the Mandela effect was meant to bring us together, and that's it. I feel like its significance. I mean, some things are truly significant, and you're like, wow, that was so cool. And some of them are so random
Yeah.
and so silly. So I'm like, well, maybe they were only designed to bring a group of people who could see them happening together. Because once we saw it happening, we looked around us and went, well, nobody else sees it happening. I'm feeling pretty crazy right now and pretty alone right now. So we had to go find other people who saw it too. And we went, oh, thank God you see it. I'm not alone, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. You see it and you don't seem crazy.
I always call it a divine gathering. That's what it seems like to me. You
Yeah,
know.
so I wish it did have a new name because a relative was asking me tonight what it meant. Like, why is it named after Nelson Mandela? That's kind of weird. And I'm like, yeah, it is kind of weird. And then I explained the whole Fiona Broom thing and how, it got named in the green room. They were out discussing when he actually died. So someday I hope it does get a new name.
Yeah.
The effect, the quantum effect, the
Quantum
miraculous
jumping.
effect that brought
Cynthia
humanity
had
together.
Cynthia Sue Larson had already nailed the name. It just didn't catch on. We needed Fiona Broom to
What
coin
did
it. I
what
think
did Cynthia say?
just quantum jumping or quantum leaps or just I think that terminology fits really well.
My term is
Quantum
matter
shift.
responding to human consciousness. My term's really boring. Matter responding to you.
Reality shifts. I think that's probably
I like reality shifts.
because that kind of explains it and
It sure
sort
does.
of, sort of.
And that was her book in the 1990s, guys. Reality shifts. Or was it reality shifters?
Reality shifters. Yeah.
Reality shifters.
Yeah, but that's one of those things I can imagine somebody accidentally typing that in there if they saw a Mandela effect happening, right? And they're like, reality shift? Just sort of a name you might just pull out and hope that you land on something that's like what you're looking for. You know, for those that
I
don't know
think,
that we're on here discussing it all the time as
yeah,
the
we
Mandela effect. There's got to be people that type stuff in and they're looking to find us, but they're typing in something like reality changes, reality
reality
shifting.
changes, matter changing. But you know what? We don't do a lot of videos on the Mandela effect anymore, but it always seeps back into the discussion somewhere. It's always there lurking. It's how we came together. We all on this channel saw the Mandela effect, and then we came here to watch your videos on the Mandela effect because we felt good here. We felt safe here. We could talk about it in a really uplifting, positive way.
And now we're actually presenting the Mandela effect to people that come here for other reasons, and they're like, "Oh, I never heard of this. What is this?" And they see they're affected as well.
And then, of course, we go so far beyond the Mandela effect,
Oh yeah,
talking about quantum and religion and anything. Everything's on the table. Everything and anything is on the table.
yeah. Because we're all just hungry to learn. We all realize nobody has all the answers, so it's just fun to talk
Nope,
about it, right?
nope, nope. I mean, I don't even believe the stuff that I say. I believe it today, and I'm like, it could change tomorrow.
disclaimer: we're just figuring stuff out. Nobody claims to know anything, and
Yeah,
I think that's a
today
good
we
way to.
think this is what's happening, and tomorrow it's going to change.
Totally.
Okay, so
Yep.
I will go silent and bring the mic forward. If you guys want to get comfortable, and of course, don't do any meditations, even this one, while driving or walking or operating heavy equipment. Like, do they say that for farmers or tractor drivers? I don't know. Okay, so everybody take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in. Let it completely fill your lungs to capacity. Hold it. And as you exhale out, let go any tension anywhere. Just let it go. And take a nice, deep, relaxing breath in and hold it and really feel that oxygen relaxing all of your muscles on the out breath. And take a third deep, relaxing breath in. Really extend your tummy with that air. Hold it and let it all come out. With any stress, let all the stress go. And now we're going to switch to breathing through our hearts and exhaling through our hearts. Just imagine drawing that breath in through your heart. And when you're ready, let it go back out through your heart. Do this at a pace that's comfortable for you. And on the in breath, draw in love, fill yourself up with it. And on the out breath, exhale forgiveness to everyone and all things. Go ahead now and breathe in forgiveness. Let forgiveness fill you up. And exhale love. And send that love out into your environment for everyone who comes into your environment. And continue breathing in and out of your heart gently. And let yourself draw in a light color, a color of light that is clear and clean and crystalline. And it can be any color that you feel like drawing into your heart tonight and exhaling it back out into your environment. And on the in breath, let that beautiful healing color fill you from the top of your head to the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And as you exhale it out, let it surround you like a cocoon, a bubble of light that's very protective. And as you continue drawing that beautiful color in, exhale it out into your environment, filling your home. And this is a good time to let down a grounding cord if you haven't done that already. Just drop a grounding cord of light from your root chakra at the base of your spine. Let it go down through your building, go down through the crust of the earth, and go down through all the individual layers of the earth until it gets to the center of the earth, where it spreads out like a tree, the roots of a tree. And now the last thing we should do is imagine holding hands as a very large and powerful group of people with we're sharing the same heart and intention right now. And imagine doing something that you love doing, something that brings you joy and makes you feel so happy that you just want to share that with the world. It could be gardening, it could be teaching children, it could be cutting hair, it could be drawing a beautiful picture, a painting, a sculpture. It could be dancing. It could be singing. It could be healing people, helping them in their time of need. It could be anything that brings you your most pleasure, joy, and fulfillment. Really makes you think that life is worth living. Imagine doing that now. And once you're in that heart space and you've joined your heart into your head space, and we've all joined together, we can do a common intention that becomes extremely powerful. And that intention tonight, with the summer solstice, the longest days of daylight for the next 3 days, is to imagine bringing light to the world, bring light to earth. Now, how would you imagine doing that? Would you imagine drawing it down from God or source energy into your body and sending it out through your heart? Would you imagine drawing it in off of the sun, which is so steady and so reliable, and sending that out through your solar plexus, perhaps, to the rest of the world? Would you like to start by sending light to those that you love, those who are your nearest and dearest, your friends, your family, your pets, and your neighbors? Would you send them a color, or would you send them love energy? So just play around with it. This is your intention. This is you sending light, increasing the light, and sending it out from you to the rest of the world. And once you've covered your community and your loved ones, do you want to send it out further and really send it out to the people that you share a country with? And then once you're comfortable with that, can you send it out further and cover the entire earth with your light, your love, your knowledge that you're sharing right now into the shared consciousness that we all share because we're human, and growing your light? How would you imagine growing your personal light stronger, brighter for you, to shine that light out in front of you and behind you, healing your past and healing your future, drawing you into the future that best serves you and best serves your loved ones? Do you see that light as a lighthouse on the ocean? Do you see it as a star in a sky? What about the light within you? How do you see that light that is within you every single moment that you're here? That light lights up your cells, it lights up your photons, it lights up your heart, it lights up your brain, it lights up your eyes, it lights up your mouth. What you speak is energy, and let that energy come from your heart from now on. Let your heart program your words. And go ahead and join together the light from your brain where you're thinking and believing things. Go ahead and shoot that down into your heart center so that they are united and together. And your heart center is where you feel things, where you love things. And now put those two lights together, complete the triangle, and shoot those energies out of your mouth. You've got the light from your brain, the light from your heart coming out of your mouth. And now when you speak to people, which is how we usually communicate, you're going to do so with your love energy behind your words, as well as your thoughts. Your thoughts will be there too. And we're going to go silent for just 3 minutes while we intend together, individually, as a group, to increase the light that we draw into us and that we put out to the world, to increase the light, the love on earth. And we're just going to start coming back now. You can let your grounding cord go. You can just let it go to the center of the earth where it's quickly absorbed. And start to move around a little bit. Move your shoulders up, back, down. Stretch your neck and come back.
Yay.
I don't know about
Awesomeness.
you, but I started to astral travel. I
Oh,
started
really?
to project above my seat. Yeah, I was definitely above my body, and I thought, wow, I haven't done that in a long, long time.
I've been noticing an increase to really strange stuff like that whole alpha state and being half asleep and then meditating and then getting more hypnagogic images and stuff than I normally do, or being able to sort of hang out in that in between state between wake and asleep, you know?
I think I went into one of those states tonight, personally. So I was
Very
still
cool.
awake. I was lifting out. I was definitely going into a different, like, what is that? Is that theta? Maybe? Beta? Theta?
I don't
We never
know.
memorize our brainwave things, functions, do we? Alpha, which is normal. There's beta, which is right between sleeping. There's theta, which is sleeping. And then there's delta, which is deep sleep. Like
I
that's
think beta
REM.
is like awake, right? Alpha is like when you're awake but half asleep, and then
Okay.
yeah, because alpha, I know alpha is the one that I go to when I'm in my deep trying to figure
But then
stuff
there's
out. So
theta and there's delta. Delta's like
right,
as low as you can go, right?
delta or theta, I always mix those two up.
And then gamma is a heightened brain rate, which is so weird because according to Lynne McTaggart, with the power of eight, you go deep and you go low and you go slow.
You
And then
pop in the top.
top at the top, like a toroidal field, you go gamma, which is high brain activity, which is when you're visualizing or intending. You don't have to
Yeah,
visualize. Some people can't visualize, but
yeah,
you can imagine.
yeah.
I
But
never,
it's
I
a
would talk to her again and say, how the heck do you go from delta theta into gamma? Go really low, 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 slow, whoop, really fast.
yeah, and probably into the point of timelessness and all that.
Yeah, which is definitely when you're astral traveling, it's very timeless, or lucid dreaming.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same way with artificial means, plant medicine and DMT and things like that. You kind of go into that timeless place.
Yeah, but you're right. It's artificially, you're forced into it
Yeah.
as opposed to going there
Plunged into it.
naturally. Yeah, plunged into it, like jumping in the deep end of the swimming pool to learn how to swim. I'll just jump in the deep end and live
It
or
is a lot
die.
like that. Yeah. It's like, it's released when you're going to bed, they say, or near death experiences and stuff like that. But, you're not, I guess you're more out of it, because you experience it every day when you're going to sleep. But to be awake and experience it, like, whoa, what's all this?
Yeah, I got forced out really quickly with anaphylactic shock and just had no clue who I was. That's what is fascinating for me is to be present but not know who I was.
Yeah.
That's cool because
Yeah.
it shows how much of an identity the ego is and how it's just not there. The ego goes away when you're no
Yeah.
longer trapped in your body.
Yeah, and it's funny because like all the questions you have and all that, it's all ego. Because once that goes, there are no questions you need answered anymore. You
So there
know.
must be a reason for soul, which is knowledgeable and lives forever, to come into a body which is stupid, and doesn't live forever. There's got to be a good reason for this.
It's a heck of a ride, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's got to be a reason, though. It's got to have, or not. People go, "Why are you looking for a reason in everything? Just enjoy the moment. The day is here because you have a day, so enjoy the day.
Yeah, take a moment and breathe it in the now, right now.
Let's live in the now. Let's live in the now." Well,
Absolutely.
that's a good top note to end on. And your son's got to come on at 9:30. He needs the internet.
Yeah, so we will see you guys next week, and of course, Monday we've got a cool show. That's the
Yeah,
next
who's
time I will
coming
be
on
working.
Monday? Oh yeah. Oh my God, it's like the
Bruce,
most famous reincarnation story in America.
super excited about that one.
I read
Who do
about
you
him.
have coming on Wednesday?
I've got Dawn, Pretty Dark, coming on.
Oh, nice.
She's always there, always there. She's one of the quiet ones, though, in
Yeah.
terms of like, but not quiet. She's always there, but
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily there in your face like some of us are, like me.
Yeah, we have a whole range of people. We still have lots of lurkers yet to come out, and I want to remind you guys to go to the forum and dip your toe in a little bit, get your stories out there, and see that
Let's
you're not
connect on
alone.
more.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then Wednesday, I'm just doing an hour to an hour and a half. Michelle and I went long. Um, People in our community who want to come on and chat about their contact experiences, or maybe they don't know what experiences they are, but they kind of seem like a contact experience, but they're not sure. Just shoot me an email, and we just talk about it on Wednesdays up until ESETI, giving everybody a chance to share.
Sounds perfect. Well, lots of love and light to you guys in the chat. Love, light, and unity. I needed to add the unity in there. And we'll
Yep.
see you in the next one.
Love you guys. Thanks so much. Mwah.
Thank you, Eileen.
Bye.
Peace. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.